We are on air. Welcome to the second philosophical webinar organized by Berlin Practical Philosophy International Forum. We will today pose the question, why values are important in our everyday life. My name is Maya Nestroy. I'm the chairwoman of Berlin Forum, and today I will be moderate this meeting, and I will also be a kind of technical support. So maybe last but not least, because this technical stuff is always something important. Our key speaker today is Chris Skowroński, professor of philosophy at Opole University, author of many books, organizer of many international conferences, and title exactly American and European values. So we have some kind of connection to the title of our meeting today. Hi, Chris. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for invitation.
It's nice to see you. So I'm in Berlin, you are in Opole, so Berlin, say hello to Opole. Okay, so before we go to presentation and the discussion, which is of course the core of our meeting, I would like to tell a couple of words about these technical issues here. Welcome to you, viewers. Hello, hello. It's actually for you, those pieces of information are actually for you, because as you see on the right side, you have something like chat box. You can say there hello to us. You can write the name of the city from which you are, and this is also the place you can post all the questions you have during the webinar. When we progress to discussion, we'll use those comments, those questions, and we will also refer to that. So please just put the questions there. If everything is working, and I hope it is, we can start. Chris, please, mic is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for the invitation once again, and I'm hoping to say a few words about something that seems to me quite often and quite popular among my students and other people, because quite often, not to mention politics, right? Politicians, the guys from, economy, from social issues, from education, everybody, and also the guys involved in some partnership issues, right, in families, very often say, valuable, worth it, not worth it, needed, not needed, and version of these words. And when I studied the issue of values, I realized that the presence of such words is so dense. I mean, everybody uses such words, but hardly anybody discusses, what it really means. So I studied this issues philosophically. The discipline that deals with values is known as philosophy of values, or axiology, or value theory. Usually these phrases describe this problem. So I can explain or suggest some things about values. However, the first thing the first thing I want to say is that many people use such words, such terminology, but I think after asking questions, very few people can have a clear idea what's this, or what such words refer to. So I'm going to talk about this and present some kind of presentation, and I will comment on this. So let me show you the text, although I have some problem with showing this text. Help me, because I'm on this green thing
Yes.
on
Yeah.
the left side, and I cannot see the my text. What should I do?
Probably once more open your PDF file.
So I should close it and
Uh,
open.
I think so, yeah. Because
Mhm.
probably the Google Hangout is not seeing your file.
Okay.
You can try to share your screen once more. As
Okay.
I said,
Yeah, yeah, okay. And now, what about now? Can you see this?
yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
As you see, technical support is
Yeah,
not
it's not
the
very essential.
most important things. Okay, we go back to values.
Mm-hmm. Is it okay now?
Yes, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
okay. So the title, Why Values Are Important in Everyday Life. So you can say it is not an academic presentation, academic lecture for professionals. It is for everybody. All those who use such terms as value, evaluation, evaluate, estimate, estimation, in their everyday language, right? But also, I would like to suggest that maybe, I don't know if it is methodologically okay, but there are some debates within philosophers. What is the relationship between such words as good and value? Is it the same or not the same? Or beautiful and value? So I will not discuss these, we can say, technical issue here as far as terminology is concerned. Let me just say that beautiful, good, better, ugly, they belong to this problematic, to this, to the, to this problem about values. So who's the target? Meaning, for whom I hope my lecture, my talking today, going to be interesting. Those who have problems in assessment, what these words really mean. What does it mean when I say evaluation? Does it mean I like it? Or does it mean that this something that I evaluate has some features that are of high quality, for example, and that's why I evaluate these things high? So let me put this question in a very general sentence like this: Do I or do we evaluate something because it is valuable, or rather something is valuable because I evaluate it high? In other words, is something worthy? Is something good? Is something beautiful? Is something significant because I think it is? And this is the final kind of justification or vindication. I like it, it's enough to justify this something. And it is valuable because I like it. I evaluate it high. Or rather, I evaluate something high because it is really high, it is really valuable, it is really good, it is really beautiful. So philosophically, we can translate this problem. I will mention this later on, but philosophically, we can describe this problem as subjectivism and objectivism. Subjectivism is the philosophical position that says that values have subjective meaning. That is, when I say I like something, or I desire something, or I need something, it is enough justification to say that something is valuable. It is valuable for me, and it does not have to be valuable for other people. It is enough that it is valuable for me, subjectively. I like it, maybe I love it, maybe I desire it, and it's okay. This thing, this object, this person, or this feature of the person I like is valuable because this valuation depends upon me. The other side or the other party would say that if I like something, or if I evaluate something high, does not mean that this thing is really valuable, or really beautiful, or really good. So objectivists, or the followers of the position that is called in philosophy objectivism, they would say, well, it's a risky thing to say that it is enough I like something, or it is enough I value something, or evaluate something high, because you can evaluate some things that are not worthy, that are not valuable as if in themselves. For example, you can evaluate drugs as something really great, okay? But it does not mean, the objectivists would say, that drugs are valuable. In fact, they would say drugs are destructive. They have no value, even if they are valued by some people. But it does the same, alcohol or something. So this discussion is really difficult and very interesting. What is the criteria by means of which we are as if justified to say that something is valuable, something is worth it, something is good, something is beautiful? So my preliminary answer to the question, are values important in our lives, is this: they are important because some of them, I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying some of them, we can say, high values, or top values, or the most important values, or perhaps vital values. Okay, not all values, but some values are fundamentally important for our existence, for our happiness, for our orientation in life, for our as if disposition of the recognition. What should we realize in our lives? It is something, or the values are something that can help us vitally to develop, to thrive in a good way, and this is the problem. What does it mean, good way, right? But anyway, my preliminary answer to the question is that it would be good for us to discuss, or to think, or deliberate on values, because they can be very helpful in our understanding what is worthy, and why something is worthy, what is valuable and why. And some of these reflections absolutely refer to such fundamental things as happiness, love. Okay, so this is my answer at this moment. What areas of living are we talking about? Well, here at this point I suggest that we are talking about both individual life and social life. Individual life, because actually everybody thinks at some point what is good for him or for her. If we talk about our needs, and if we want to define values by needs, for example, valuable means needed. I need something, and what I need is valuable. Or to put the same in other words, when I have some needs or desires, I want to realize these needs by some things that become valuable because they can be instrumental for the realization of my needs. So all this thing, all this argumentation, all this reflection refers to individual life. What needs do I have? What needs are more vital? What needs are, or which are most important? Which are less important? And in relation to this, what things can be instrumental in the realization of these needs? It is an example here, what is written here. Let's say that you have some idea about your career, about your development. And you think, what would be more valuable for you as a kind of development, thriving, something that you would have satisfaction from. And if you have this subjective approach I mentioned a second ago, you could say that, well, I would like to do in my life what I like, okay? Irrelevantly of what the people will think about this. So you think about your passions, you think about your hobbies, and so on and so on. And you say that valuable in the case of my career is something that will meet my needs, my passions, my individual needs, my individual passions. However, I don't believe we think about our careers in such a way. I think more often we think about the social consequences of our walk of life, our decisions about career. For example, if this career is prestigious, or if this career is well paid, or if this career that can promote me in society or in my community. So I think that very often when we think that I would like to develop my career in my way, very often this, my way means the way that my community or my society values high. So I don't want to get into details at this moment, but I think this can be the other point, that what answering to the question, what areas of life are we talking about? Well, individual life definitely, but also social life. So because in the individual life usually is very strongly connected with social life, and individual decisions are not isolated decisions. And this definitely includes values. Individual decisions about values, I think very often these are illusions, or this is an illusion to think that my decisions about values or valuable state of things, it is, excuse me, is just my individual decision. When we think about the most valuable social order, let's say that we agree that it's democracy, right? We are also talking about values, because we can say the democratic political system, or liberal democratic political system, is valuable in the sense that it is the best or the most worthy system because it can guarantee better than other systems the individual thriving, individual success of particular people. So this can be the reason why we can link again, excuse me, we can link social and political life with individual life while talking about values. So you can see that this terminology, values, valuable, can be applicable to many areas of living, individual, social, political, and many others. This point of my reflection I have titled Disorientation on Values. Disorientation means I very often have this problem with my students where they really are disoriented in the choices they face in life. And it seems to me that modern societies, well-developed societies, democratic and wealthy societies, of course they are wonderful and so on, but they produce problems with regard to values. Because when you have access or easy access to almost everything what you want, you can be disoriented with regard to what is the most important thing, the most valuable thing in the situation that all the goods are available, just the price is different. So if you live in the commercial world or the society's way, where consumption is really something developed in an incredibly high level, you can ask such questions. Is really consumption the highest, value, and consuming things is valuable, or perhaps there are other things? It is just a question or it's a kind of suggestion that I've met a lot of people who feel disoriented with regard to what should be chosen. This is especially interesting in the case of women in the countries like Eastern European countries, where the social development has come so rapidly, and the lifestyle of young women is very different than the lifestyle of their mothers. So the mothers of these women I'm talking about did not have many choices under communism. 30, 40 years ago, when communism was the political system that was in Eastern Europe, the Eastern European countries were pretty poor, and there were not so many options, not many choices. Especially women, I think, were as if deprived of the possibility to choose things, goods, options, and opportunities as it takes place nowadays. So, for example, in contrast to the older generation, the women who are 20, 25 years old nowadays in Eastern Europe, they are really free to choose between emigration or staying at home, having marriage or not, having boyfriends or no, having this type of work or other type of work, having education or no education, or different type of education, or maybe education in some other country. These things were very, very hard to achieve by the older generation, but the generation of their mothers, not to mention the generation of the grandmothers. So it is interesting to talk to these people, especially to these women, and listen, excuse me, listening to them when they are saying, well, and I ask them, what do you think you should do after your education, higher education? They say very often, I don't know, or we don't know what to do. We do not have this general idea what to do in life. So we hesitate, we have doubts, we are not sure what we should do, and we are not really thinking about some kind of dedication to one life project or the other one, because we can choose this, we can choose that, and there is no pressure. Okay, I have question to you, Maya. Do we have any questions, or do we have um, any comments? Because I think my throat is really tired, and I have to have a minute or two to relax my throat. As you can see, I'm some problem with
Okay,
my
of
throat.
course. Of course, I think that what you are saying is actually highly controversial, even, at least from my point of view. So I hope we have viewers right now, so please join the discussion. And I was thinking why you point out the female students, because I'm quite sure that actually the male students or situation of men, you know, um, 20, 30 years ago and now changed in the same way. I mean, this range of different perspectives opened, I think, the same for women as for men. Um, so did you have here some special point to make? Because this was this.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right saying that this change is, as if includes everybody. But I'm just talking about, from my perspective, a very specific change as regards the social roles, because it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that women a generation ago had much higher pressure, or they felt much higher social pressure that males. So females are more as if liberated, if you can say this word, to choose things in a more free way than males. This is what I wanted to say. Maybe you say I think in the wrong way, but I have this feeling that females have been as if liberated in a more definite way than males.
Okay, thank you for this clarification. Because if we speak about this topic, I would say generation ago, we had some kind of choice about choosing the education. Uh, and right now we still okay, we have bigger choice and more possibility, but I wouldn't say we are completely liberated from any kind of pressure.
I'm not saying completely. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying no.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm saying. It's not completely. It's
Mm-hmm.
more liberated. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Of course, of course. That's nice. Do we have any questions? That is the question to that is the question to our viewers. Okay. Um, you also mentioned, because it was also it struck me that you mentioned also that some kind of our individual values are kind of illusion. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that quite often we say in liberal societies that it's my choice. I have a choice. I can do what I
Mm-hmm.
want. You know, this is what it strikes me as something more than kind of political project that everybody should say or feel that we are free, we can do what we want, right? But it seems to me that it is a kind of illusion. I mean, that politically and socially we've been given some space within some framework, and this political system is telling us within this framework you can do what you want. But it is not our free option. It is our as if free space given within political system, within given social order. So I don't believe we really can do what we want. We have the legal system, we have the political correctness in different forms. We have the social criticism of our actions very often. When we publicly say something, we have hundreds of thousands comments. And comments, it's not something wrong, but comments when followed, when you have bad comments, and then some doors are closed and your possibilities reduced. So this is kind of social pressure. And you have to be careful about what you are saying, right? So it is not that you can say what you want. So this is what I meant by illusion. I'm not saying that individuals do not have freedoms. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in choosing some valuable things, we more often than not pay attention to the social conditions of achievement of these goods, of these values. And if we pay attention to the social conditions, if we calculate the social consequences of our choices, so it is not our free choice. We are conditioned by social circumstances, right? So this is what I wanted to say about this.
So are we conditioned to, value something else valuable?
Yeah, this is what I want to suggest, that sometimes it would be good for us to think about how much the external world is telling us what we should value, right? So I think it's interesting.
So, just considering, your example about the female students, a generation ago and right now, or just the women a generation ago, or like, maybe they had actually more freedom because right now, if I can, just estimate the atmosphere around the women and how should she be successful in the world and how should she be fulfilled, and since she has all those possibilities which she hadn't had before, maybe actually we are, maybe actually we have less choice at the end because we have to be successful, we have to be independent, we have to be, I don't know, on a webinar, for example.
It's a very good point, but much depends on how we define freedom. So if we define freedom by more and more opportunities, so of course, younger generation, in my opinion, in developed countries, they have more opportunities than the previous generation. But if you define freedom as by pressure, right? So maybe the older generation and the present generation, they feel high pressure in the same way. I mean, there's a kind of social pressure anyway. Maybe the forms of this pressure is different. So the pressure for the previous generation was, for example, you have to be religious. And pressure today is, well, you don't have to be religious. You can do what you want as far as religion is concerned, but you have to be careful as regards paying taxes. And maybe one generation before or two generations before, the tax system was not so strict, but now it is. So what I say that if you define freedom by social pressure, some people may say, well, all the time there is social pressure. So freedom is not so progressive. But if you think about opportunities, especially opportunities for the groups that some time ago were marginalized, right? For example, opportunities for gay minority 30 years ago and opportunities for gay minority today. I'm not gay, but I suspect gay in Germany, in Scandinavia, in the US would say, of course we have more freedoms, of course, in comparison to what we had 30 or 40 years ago, not to mention, 100 years ago. So much depends upon how we measure freedom, what criteria we use to say who is free, who is not. But you are absolutely right. The social pressure can be a thing. In classical philosophy, and I'm referring to values, freedom is something. We can measure freedom by the access to valuable things, to highest values. You are free when you deal, traditionally speaking, with the good, the beautiful, the truth. So when you have access to these absolute values, right, in using the language of classical philosophy, you are free. If you are far away from the truth, the good, the beautiful, you can be very rich. You can, be, I don't know, a very successful man, but you are away from these values, so you are not free according to this terminology. So really much depends upon the definition of freedom. What is freedom? And really it's a part of this story, how we should define freedom in relation, for example, to values, right? So for me, it's exciting. It's very interesting.
It's very exciting. I didn't want to muddle, starting a new topic like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
we understand the freedom. I just asked these questions to clarify the whole conception of, uh, values and this illusion, and just those examples you mentioned, actually, just to clarify how we understand values. And this also in this tension between my own values as individual human being and values in the framework of the society, or just in the society.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yes, let me
to
come
this
back to.
yeah, great,
Yes, can I?
please.
And you can see the presentation, right, at this moment?
Yeah, is everything fine?
Yeah. So I talked about disorientation on values, and now comparison of values, of vital values. Comparison is a nice strategy for me, because we don't have to talk in absolute terms without any, in isolated way about values. But take a look at this example, which is as a practical implementation of the strategy of comparing vital values. You have professional career that is very important for you, and you have family, right? For example, your partner, kids, and so on. And sometimes people have to choose when they have problems with coping with these two strategies, to devote energy, passion, imagination to professional career, or rather devote energy, imagination to your partner and kids. The question is, aren't you comparing these values at some point? For example, by saying, what should I choose? Should I devote more energy to this or to that? Should I devote more, I don't know, stamina, uh, more thoughts, more, emotions, more energy to this or that? And it's a good point, I think, to compare and take into consideration, again, the criteria: happiness or social expectations or obligations. So what I want to stress at this very point, I don't believe talking about isolated values is really helpful. I think a better thing is to compare values at the moment where you think they are difficult to cope with at the same time, and it will. Another example: when you have the value of patriotism, and you want to emigrate to other country. So if you have this philosophical inkling, so you would think, on the one hand, I have patriotism, which says that, well, I should stay in my country and to contribute to the development of my country. And emigration, on the other hand, should I emigrate? Should I leave my country? And if so, am I patriotic in this sense? So I think such reflection, this type of reflection, is more helpful than thinking about values in an isolated form. The other point I want to pay attention to is reverse of hierarchy of values can be dangerous. When I talked about disorientation on values, I did not say that, but I would like to say it at this moment. Usually it means that we assume that there is some kind of hierarchy of values, meaning there are more important values and the most important values. And the success in your life, I think, in your individual life and the life in your community, I think, much depends upon the good choice as regards hierarchy of values. And if you reverse this hierarchy, and you've been when you are dedicated to something that at some point of your life you will describe as trifle, something unimportant, it can be dangerous. I am really a fan of Socrates, who was trying to develop the philosophy of know yourself, meaning that a basic thing for us is to reflect, to deliver, to think about our own condition, about the hierarchy of values. Where are our values? What we would like to dedicate to, and the proper recognition of this hierarchy of values is something the ancients, the first philosophers, wanted to tell us. I mean, them and later generations. So Socrates is kind of symbolic figure in something that in philosophy is called wisdom. Wisdom can be explained in very different ways. One of them is a proper recognition of hierarchy of values. You are wise, not stupid, but wise, when you know what is more important and what is less important, and you dedicate your energy to what is more important, and more important is what is more valuable, what is good, what is the beautiful, using again this traditional or classical language of philosophy. Can values be defined by needs? Well, it's one of the basic problems here. I think I mentioned that some people understand values as objects or things that help us realize our needs. And yeah, we have many theories or value theories that are based on this type of understanding of values, that they refer to needs, or more broadly they refer to needs, to demands, to desires, to expectations, and so on. One point I would like to pay special attention to. Do we have a clear understanding where our natural needs are, and when or where social needs start? Natural needs, I think we have very few. They are basic, but they are very few. Drink, food, shelter, and such things. However, the social needs, for example, to spend vacation on the Seychelles or enjoy social prestige, it is something that necessary, something that we must do. We have to have this. I would like to just pay attention to this, that the very often our needs are, while talking about values, are, for some people, these needs again are not our own needs, they are social needs. And the society, for example, commercial society, commercial community, is as if pushing us to some direction to think that these social needs are really our natural needs. We have no time and we have no need to talk more about this borderline between natural needs and social needs or constructed needs. But it is a very interesting and very important point in discussion about values. And I think it would be nice for everybody to think for a while about this. Do I really need something? Do I really need, for example, do I really need to work hard by a lot of time, a lot of energy to get something that for some other people is not necessary at all? So is it necessary for me? This is something that I would recommend, this type of thinking. Um, a part of this question is when these needs should be realized. Now, just in a second, in a moment, or maybe within a couple of years, or perhaps in many, many years ahead. So the moment of this realization of the need, now, later, in some years, or in, I don't know, 25 years or something, it is also an important factor in discussions about values. I'm returning at the end to the divide I mentioned at the beginning. Are values objective, subjective? Um, I hope you remember at the very beginning I mentioned this divide, this division into objective, subjective. Subjective values. Uh, we talk about subjective values when we say that I value something and I do not really need to search for more general justification of the value of this object, of this thing. On the other hand, objective values, opposition that says that objective values are important, says that, well, the object have some internal components that make them really valuable. Although perhaps many people do not like these objects, but they are worthy. These objects are valuable because of some internal, I don't know, composition or some internal ingredients that they have. The objectivism or objective way of thinking about values was very popular in classic tradition, and subjective way of thinking is more, I think, frequent in contemporary discussion about values. An interesting point is when we love people. For example, our parents or our lovers, our husbands, our wives, our kids. What do we love in these people? Is it not the case that we love some valuable features in these people we love? There are some theories that say that we do not love, or many people do not love people as such. People love some valuable features in these people. If this theory is right, then we would have some kind of suggestion how to interpret love and the mutual relationship of love and respect. And the suggestion would be that values or valuable features of the people we love, this is uh, um, the main factor for the relationship. I think it would be a nice topic for development. Here we have two things: a reflection about values or axiology, and also philosophy of love. There is a discipline, philosophical discipline, that is called philosophy of love, and one of maybe the main point of this is a reflection: what is love? According to some interpretations, within philosophy of love, love is a reference to valuable features of the person we love. But not only persons or people with whom we deal with are deserve reflection. Any film you watch, any piece of music you listen to, can provoke similar questions with regard to values. Do you, for example, you're watching a film, does it, and you like the film, okay? And what does it mean you like a film? You like the film you're watching because it is your subjective fascination or some subjective emotions that is the main basis for you to say I like the film, or perhaps the film has some internal features, valuable features, and you can detect these features, and that's why you say that you like this film or you think this film is valuable. If it is so, it would be nice to detect what exactly are these features. So in this case, it is also some kind of area for us, for everybody, because everybody watches films, everybody listens to music, right? And everybody likes some pieces of music, at the same time dislikes other pieces of music. And what is the basis for this distinction? I like this, or this music, this piece of music is great, or that piece of music is nothing. Is it subjective approach, or rather it is more objective, meaning that there are some valuable traits or features in this piece of music that make these features make us say that, well, I like it or we like it. Multiculturalism, so controversial today, is also a part of the story, because if we translate the name multiculturalism into plurality of cultural values, so instead of talking about this multicultural issue, we can convert our discussion about multiculturalism, or translate multiculturalism into the discussion about values or cultural values of different cultures living side by side. And so personally, it's my opinion, right, that multiculturalism can be discussed from the point of view of values, because different cultures refer to some values, and the word different means not just different cultures, it may mean different values. So two cultures that refer to different basic values, well, they produce kind of clash. And it's very difficult to deal with this at the same time. So what I'm saying is that when we think about the multicultural problems nowadays in Europe and the US, I think philosophy of values can be sort of help for reflecting what's going on in this in this problematics, right? Okay, so thank you for listening to this presentation. If you have comments or questions, I will be happy to discuss that more.
Thank you, Chris, for delivering this interesting presentation. And I think it was even more value. You delivered even more value because you build some kind of connection between disconnected topics. Like on the one hand, axiology, which sounds weird for a for lay person, and connected this axiology and values. I see myself on your screen. So please
What
just
should
turn it.
I do to be visible?
You were visible. Actually, the last part of presentation wasn't, but you were visible, and it was great because,
What about now? What should I do to be visible again?
probably once more the green stuff. Yeah, no, it's great.
Oh yeah, I'm
So you
again.
build some kind of
Yeah.
connection between, philosophical abstract terms like axiology and values, which we know they are a huge topic, huge issue
Oh yeah.
in philosophical thoughts, and connected that to our everyday life. So thank you for that, because there were stuff like, um, choosing between career and children, between, um, things are very important also in our life. Um, we wait maybe for any questions, but maybe would you like to comment something even more?
Well, I do agree. I can see we have just a few minutes, right? I really think that philosophy of values can be helpful in translating translating in both ways. I mean, from philosophical, theoretical language into practical language, and vice versa. When we have daily problems, with partnership, multiculturalism, things like that, and we can translate this into the language of values. What's the aim of this? Well, very shortly, I would say mm, values or reflection about values can help us understand the final, as if basics to which we refer while discussing with people who have a different vision, a different position, a different, attitude, different approach. Very often, during these discussions, we have kind of fight between one subjective opinion against the other subjective opinion. So I think that philosophy of values or thinking about values is helpful to make this discussion more profound and explain to us if it is simply our subjective approach that is at stake here, or perhaps we should refer to something more general, more something deeper, this stuff. So I do not have definite answers to that. Especially that the answers that classical philosophy has provided, that we have to deal with the truth, the beautiful, the good. For me, it is not so clear what was going on here. Because what does it mean, the truth? What does it mean, the beautiful? What does it mean, the good? Anyway, so I'm not just a fan of final conclusions, but I'm a fan of discussing and confronting these, different positions and talking about values and waiting what we're going to have out of the discussion. So I invite people to discuss about such things, hoping that the very discussion is something valuable. And so at this general level, it would be my conclusion.
Mhm. But will it help actually, to translate those different stands, the different points of view, even to translate into the language of values? Will it really help to solve the problems? Because you start to speak like, okay, we have no agreement about what beauty is, what true is, and maybe when we translate those abstract terms into language of values, it will be easier to discuss. But right now I feel like maybe no, because we will translate those subjective terms into actually subjective descriptions of, it
Yeah,
will be like some
absolutely
kind of
right. Yeah.
subjective category of my value. And I was even thinking about it because you mentioned some kind of division for natural and social needs, and I had even problem with that, because maybe right now social needs are natural for us.
I do agree with me. So please, you agree with me when I say that after a discussion or two or three or 15 discussions, we will realize, I mean, the both parties, that we are talking all the time by using our own terms. And there's going to be time when we should, while talking about discussion, to realize that all the time we egoistically or subjectively we are using our terms, our categories, our, everything, our, attacking our opponent. So perhaps after the profound discussion, we would realize that perhaps it's a good time to um, try to escape from our, isolated terminology and think that perhaps we will do nothing helpful, nothing worthy when we all the time will be stronger and stronger and stronger in talking about our categories, our traditions, our positions, our egoism. And so I say that discussion can, it does not have to, but it can make us more sensitive to those guys who are in front of us. It may.
Okay,
It
but
might,
you
it might help.
mentioned, yeah, I will discuss with you here.
Yeah.
I feel like a kind of disagreement only referring to your words today, because you mentioned that we are not able to um, have our own views because we live in a society, and pretty much our categories and our point of view is shaped, but from outside. So right now you talk, okay, we should discuss, but should we discuss like individuals? Because probably I'm a product of some kind of society, and I
Yeah,
don't
very
even
good.
realize, how much my terminology is determined.
It's a very interesting question. And the problem with my answering is because I had no time to explain what I mean by we.
Mhm.
So we may mean very different things.
Mhm.
So I cannot explain it now. I can, however, show that at some situations while discussing our values, we feel the difference between us and them. And this is us means that we use the common language or common narrative about values. They use different. So it may mean individual, but usually it means social. I mean, we, the members of our group, we use some specific language about what is valuable, and we use some specific hierarchy of values. In my opinion, it is very nice, it's very helpful to discuss with them, with those guys who have very different options. And not just to quarrel or fight, but to think intellectually and also perhaps emotionally, to learn from them why they on earth, why they use this very different language, why they say about different values. We can, I'm not saying that dialoguing is wonderful or the best, way always. But I think at some situations, dialoguing with them, with the people using different language, different hierarchy of values, can teach us something. For example, understanding why they say this. And for educational reasons, I think it's helpful. But I'm not saying that this is, the final, wonderful, the best solution for settling social affairs.
Okay, thank you. We have no further questions, and I would say it's a nice conclusion, because right now, right here, we do the same. We're dialoguing, meeting the world of academia, your world with the world of social media, and so on. So we try to build some kind of connection, some kind of
For me, it's
uh,
wonderful.
yeah. I hope the idea is wonderful,
Absolutely
but it's
wonderful. Yeah.
actually talking about
Yeah.
values. We value something different. I think, our generation of YouTube, you value probably different things. But yes, we're meeting here.
I'm very happy to talk with, with you, meaning, the other
Us.
part of culture, uh, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I would say we close today our webinar. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being
Thank,
our key speaker. I hope we will meet monthly, like on each third Wednesday a month, and we will have here different guests. We will have some philosophical narrative in person of Chris Komorowski, who will be moderating. I will stay here as a host, so please stay tuned, and until next time. Bye. Thank you for
thank you.
being with us.